So today's format is an office hours. So we get a chance to ask some questions, to just see what people have got on their minds. And I see we have a few new people too, so feel free to participate. Agenda for today, I just want to share with you a couple of events that are coming up. We'll get a chance to go and do this roundtable questions and answers, and I want to tell you a bit about what's happening with OpenFaaS Cloud as well. So DockerCon is the main event that's coming up, and next week we have. Are people able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next week we have a GitOps meetup with Weaveworks on Tuesday. So if you're in San Francisco, this is free to come to, and it's opposite the venue. So opposite the Moscone Center, inside the Pivotal office, and Stefan Prodan will be there too, talking about GitOps with Helm, and I'll speak about GitOps with OpenFaaS Cloud. On Wednesday, I have a container SIG where we're going to talk about serverless with some other industry leaders inside DockerCon. So if you're going to be there, come to the session. And then again on Thursday, there's a panel where we're going to be talking about serverless. And for both of those last two sessions, I'm going to put some slides together from the project. So if there's anything you want to see or you think is particularly important, feel free to drop a message to me. I started a thread. I think it's in the OpenFaaS or the contributors channel. So I put this in here just so people who maybe haven't been around so long can get a quick overview of what is the point of OpenFaaS. This is from one of my other decks. So the idea and maybe the unique selling point here is that this is an independent project of any corporation. It's open source. And then within the actual benefits of the project, you can run any code you want. So it means that you have this portability. We actually can support ARM and Linux and Windows. That seems really useful to a lot of people that want to make use of OpenFaaS, the users that we've been engaging with. So you can run any code. I think we do need to get a template ready for Java. There was some work that was done for this in the past. If anyone wants to volunteer to help with that again, please reach out. It's not that somebody couldn't run Java, but we should just make it a bit easier for them. You can run this anywhere, so you should get the same experience on your laptop as in the cloud. This again it might sound undersold, but one of the customers I was speaking to last week can only run software where they can have multi-cloud. Like they won't run where they can, when they're locked into one platform. They want the ability to maybe run on Azure and on AWS at the same time, and that's one of the things that we can really help with. At any scale, there was a Twitter thread that I was listening to, I was on in the week, and somebody said, like, you can't auto scale with a serverless, open source serverless project. Well, you can. A lot of clouds have autoscalers for Kubernetes that can add more VMs and more capacity into your cluster. And then most of you are aware of the horizontal autoscaling that can use up the capacity that you got. And we really focus on being easy to use. So there's some work right now that Richard and Ivana are doing about adding a new command line flag, so that when you're building an OpenFaaS template, if you need GCC and make, because you've got something like Pilo or Pandas or NumPy, Python modules or bcrypt, that you can add another flag, and then that will add those packages for the Docker build for you. So these are the things that we're really aligned with. These are the things I think that make the project stand out. And then there's the community as well. If there's anything else that you really love about OpenFaaS, feel free to just share that back. And that maybe that can help us with the next few presentations. And one of the things that I just keep hearing over and over again is about the limitations of being locked into one provider, or having what they've kind of deemed as what they can operate with. So when you're running on Lambda, you have your 5 meg request limit, right? When you make a request, that's the maximum you can make. You can't do 6 megs. for a request. The body can't be any bigger. It's important to have limits, but with OpenFaaS, you get to decide what they are, because you're effectively going to be operating it. And this does open a lot of doors for data science and some of the other use cases that we've been seeing. Does anyone have any questions about this? Okay. So I shared this last time we met. The broad roadmap for OpenFaaS is to grow the community and to grow the team within VMware. We've got a new intern that started with us, Martin Dekoff. He's put his hand up. So he's started in Sofia. We also got someone else that's just agreed to join with us in the UK. And I could share some more news with you when he's actually joined. But that's going to really help bolster the project and mean that we can keep moving forward. OpenFaaS Cloud is developing. It's fully functional, but there's some gaps and some stuff that we need to do to make it a better experience. One of those things is adding secret support. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. We've had some people working on how we can integrate more easily with event sources. So John McCabe has worked through a cloud event support. He's been able to do it in the function without adding any other code, which is really great. And then I've been working with Simon Peltzler around a Kafka and an AmpQ event connector, and we want to do one for AWS SNS as well. Scaling to 0 and back again. There's a term that I've heard in VMware quite a bit called overcommitting, and that's where you've got more stuff running than you have capacity for. And for some customers and some users, having like 1,000 OpenFaaS functions, but only 100 are active or 10 are active, could be a really useful use case for them to effectively overcommit their cluster. There's some technology that you need there to scale to 0 and back up again. If anyone on the call is interested in participating in that work, reach out to me. Stefan's been working quite tirelessly on an OpenFaaS operator. This is a component that basically reads CRDs. I want to ask, is there anyone on the call who's using the OpenFaaS operator at the moment? So I know a couple of people are. Maybe we can get a demo of that again at the next meetup. The only difference between using that and FaaSnetes is you have the option of using kubectl to apply functions. And then we do have some work going on around the serverless JavaScript CLI that I'm hoping to get rebooted in a couple of weeks. So that's the broad brush of what we're looking at. And in some of these areas, we're going a bit deeper than in others. So the OpenFaaS Cloud, I'll tell you about really quickly. The idea here is that you have a GitOps experience. You push code from your laptop to GitHub, a native integration with GitHub, then packages, builds, tests, and deploys your code with a rolling update. Right, and there's an overview page where you can see what your functions are, when they were last deployed, and when you use our public environment, you've got HTTPS there. So people like Jonas and Kenny, maybe John McCabe's already done this. If you've got a demo or talk coming up and you want somewhere to demo OpenFaaS, rather than having to stand up your own environment, you can actually use this one, right? And then it has HTTPS, and we've got secret support coming, whereby you can effectively do this. You're working on a Twitter bot, and you can define a secrets.yaml along with your stack.yaml. So that's what we'd normally put. And if you're working on your own OpenFaaS outside of OpenFaaS Cloud, obviously you can use secrets securely. But with this one, what we're looking at doing is encrypting that secrets file, so that then when this Twitter bot is deployed, you might have an access key and a secret key available. And the inspiration from this is from the work Stefan's been doing at Weaveworks with their WeaveFlux product, which they basically read a GitHub repo and keep applying all of the Kubernetes objects inside of that, right? And the thing that they used to take secrets and encrypt them and then apply them to a cluster was called SealedSecrets. and I wanted to show you what that looks like, because I don't know if people have used this before. So sealed secrets comes from Bitnami, and the idea is that you may have these literal key value pairs like your access key and your secret key. You can call an operation on them called seal, and that uses your public key. Right, so at the beginning, we've got these two keys on the right that we generate, public and private. We keep the private inside the cluster and never share it, but we can share the public key, and then anyone can encrypt it using the seal method, and you get effectively the secret YAML that nobody can read, and you can upload to your GitHub. Once that is unsealed, you then get the plain text values back again. And so Bitnami have built this whole controller that you can install into Kubernetes, and when you want to use OpenFaaS Cloud for your Twitter bot, you can now seal your secrets, put them into GitHub, and then behind the scenes, once you do your Git push, we can unseal them and attach them to your functions. So I think this is going to be really going to make OpenFaaS Cloud a lot more useful, right? Because up to now, it's public code, public functions. If you wanted to put something in S3, you couldn't. Does anyone have any questions about sealed secrets?
Probably I have a question. Which component is responsible for sealing credentials?
Yeah, so for the sealing, there's a CLI called kubectl, and what that. No problem, but so that seals the secret by reading the public key and then applying some basically RSA asymmetric cryptography to it, and then you get your other file out the other end of it.
It is handled by Kubernetes, or
yeah. So I could probably show you how that works. So one of the things that I've done is to build this into the OpenFaaS CLI. So rather than having to use the third-party one, there'll be a new subcommand in FaaS CLI called cloud, and then you have the word seal. Then we're putting the name of the secret for the cluster and any literal values. So these are the actual secrets. So in this example, if I put GitHub webhook secret and I run this, what we'll end up getting is secrets YAML, and inside we get this encrypted data.
Okay.
Once you put that on GitHub, the OpenFaaS Cloud will go through its normal flow of cloning your repository and then deploying it. But at the same time, we're now going to be able to attach these secrets to your function for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So the work that we've got at the moment is I've done the work for the sealing, and then internally, it's actually making use of the Bitnami CLI. So I won't run you through all the code, but there's a bit of code here that says kubectl format YAML, use the certificate that I'm giving you, and then it gets the value out of that again. This is the public certificate that anybody can share, and we'll probably put this on GitHub pages or in the GitHub repository. So when you run the CLI, you probably won't even need to pass in the location of the certificate, right? So it might just be something like pubcert, like repo pubcert, or some other flag that means it will fetch it from GitHub and do the encryption. So we do have, just to make it clear, we do have secret support in OpenFaaS already. What this is doing is allowing you to basically put your secret publicly on the internet and be sure that nobody can decrypt it easily. Any other questions about that? Okay, so the other part of the code is on the OpenFaaS Cloud side. And here, there's a pull request that Bart has been working on. Bart's a new member of the community. And, excuse me, effectively, we'll see some code in here that is creating a new function called import secrets. And that's the one that will parse the YAML file and load it into the Bitnami sealed secret. And then they have a component that sits in the cluster and does all of the work for you, right? So it detects the new sealed secret and it unseals it. And then by the time you've deployed your function in your YAML file for your function, you can just say what secret names you have and it will be attached. So it's not quite working yet end to end, but it will be soon. And then I'll post another update. So when you do your demos and when you do use that shared environment, you can have that full experience and it'll be much more useful to you. Okay. So within the context of OpenFaaS, I've had a couple of people ask recently about how to set up a robust OpenFaaS system that they can operate for production. Some people are still asking about Docker Swarm, but for Kubernetes, I think that's the way to go. There's several reasons for that. One is the plethora of managed Kubernetes services, right? So you have GKE, Amazon have EKS coming out soon, and there's a whole bunch of other managed Kubernetes services where you just have a credit card number in somewhere and you drag a slider bar to say how much servers you want, and that's about all you need to do. At that point in time, you can install OpenFaaS with Helm, add your load balancers, and forget about the system, right? And that's one of the reasons why we think Kubernetes is important. You do need to have HTTPS enabled so that you've got encrypted traffic going both ways. Basic authentication is now built into the API gateway, which means that you'll get a username and password prompt. That's something that we were doing in the reverse proxy before, but now what this means is that even if a function tried to access the gateway, it wouldn't be able to unless it had the credentials, right? So I've updated the README file for this, and I'd suggest if you're running OpenFaaS somewhere, you try upgrading and start using the basic authentication inside the gateway. And we're going to be exploring different authentication as we go forward. High availability means that when you define your functions, you can say how many minimum and maximum you want to be running. You probably want to have at least 2 or 3 of your functions, 2 or 3 of your gateways, 2 or 3 of NAT streaming, and then a queue worker. So if one of those replicas happens to die, you've got some traffic to deal with, you can carry on operating. Right? Network policy is a Kubernetes specific idea, and there's a blog post I'll share after this call that Stefan's written up, and we basically were able to work on some isolation that can stop functions talking to each other and stop them talking to things like NAT streaming directly or Prometheus. We think that's going to be important for multi-teams or multi-tenancy where you've got multiple people working together. And then the CI/CD, you can use whatever you want, or you can actually use OpenFaaS Cloud, right? Which is one of the reasons why we're building that. When it comes to day 2, you need to really be able to monitor what's going on in the system. You need to be able to know how much CPU things are taking. You can do that with Prometheus. We've got it built in, and so you end up getting a dashboard like that. So that's really all I wanted to share with you. And then I wanted to go into just some question and answer, see what people have been doing with the project. Have we got any questions about this slide? Poke anybody?
Probably I have a question about high availability in OpenFaaS. I have a question about high availability in OpenFaaS.
Yeah.
So to make OpenFaaS really high available, what should I do? Just install from OpenFaaS Metis repository default YAML configs, or I need to some additional operation?
So we have the Fazanettes that you're right to talk about that one, and this is where we have the YAML that you may have used, and also the Helm chart. Right now, you're probably going to need to do an edit on this and come into something like the gateway, and where you have the replicas defined. So the replicas are defined as 1, and you need to think about what makes sense for your deployment. So if you have, I don't know, 50 nodes, you probably want way more than 1 replica of that, proportional to the traffic. There's some idea of planning and maybe monitoring how things are going, but yeah, to have high availability, you're going to need more than 1 replica, and you're probably going to need to do that in a few places. You can do this in the YAML. The other thing with Kubernetes is you can, I don't know if I have it in my command anymore, but you can do scale. So if you do kubectl, I have to remember what the command is now, but basically you can do scale. Yeah, I think it's scale replicas equals, I don't know, 5. So I think I have a cluster running, pointing at a cluster now. Put the namespace, OpenFaaS, and then the deployment of the gateway. There you go. Right, so that worked. So you've got those 2 options. You may have a shell script that you're going to run after your initial deployment. You may actually be monitoring it and then change this. You've got the queue worker as well, and the queue worker represents how much asynchronous work you're going to be processing at any one point in time. And obviously we've got the 1 replica there. You're going to want more than 1. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Does the gateway take advantage of the auto scaling capabilities in Kubernetes? Can you sort of?
You actually, yeah. So within Kubernetes, there's 2 types of. Well, within OpenFaaS, there's 2 types of scaling. There's the built-in one that we have that works everywhere, and then there's the Kubernetes specific scaling called HPA. I think this is what John's talking about. HPA is really nice, and I took it off this slide, but I would recommend using the Kubernetes autoscaler when you're running in production on Kubernetes. I can't see a good example on here, but basically you write some YAML and it defines your min and max replicas. You can say whether you want requests per second, memory, or CPU to be the trigger, which is really neat.
It's probably worth bubbling up that to be more prominent, sort of, because I guess it's going to be increasingly unlikely that people are going to be running Swarm in production.
Yeah, so that's represented here. I need a volunteer to write something up in more detail. So right now we explain the built-in auto-scaling in the docs, and then we point to Stefan's blog where he goes into detail about how to set up HPA2, and we've got the Kubernetes docs. But what we could do with is someone just saying how to disable the built-in one and then how to set up some same defaults, right, for their functions. So if you fancy taking that on, or somebody else who knows Kubernetes wants to get stuck in, that would be a great way to help out.
It's Dimitri, isn't it?
That was talking, I think so. Yeah, I think Dimitri, you were talking, weren't you?
That sounds like that could be like a pretty good PR if you want to. If you're interested in looking at that, that'd be a really useful one to get in.
So I think you've been volunteered. You'll have to speak to him on Slack. Is there one here? So I talked about the CRDs for OpenFaaS. This is an example of what a Kubernetes CRD would look like for a function. So we've got very similar definition to what we see when we were building and deploying within OpenFaaS. CLI. So the OpenFaaS CLI would look like stack YAML. Look like this, right? You've got the name, the language, the handler. The Kubernetes variant of that has got the namespace, which is pretty much always going to be the same. The version that we're working off, the image, any environment variables that we have, and so it's going to very much mirror that. And I know Stefan would like some more help testing it. Right now, my recommendation is to use the FaaSNetties controller rather than the OpenFaaS operator. It's had much more people look at it and use it. But we want to get to the point where they're both equally stable, equally usable. Here's actually an example of the pod scaler for Dimitri and John. So you can see here it's targeting the function. We've got the min and max replicas set, and it's actually going to scale when the target CPU is over 50%, or the memory is over 400 megabytes, then it will add another replica. And so it's quite an expressive way of defining how you want to scale. Okay. So that's all I really wanted to say. I want to turn it back over to you guys and see if we could go around. One of the other things I did ask John at the last minute if he wouldn't mind talking about commit messages. So we have something in the documentation that talks about the best way to format your commit messages so that they're usable and they're meaningful over time. Do you want to do that now, or we go around and then do it?
Yeah, I can. Probably sort of, everybody probably knows this already, but it's just, we occasionally see committers when they raise a pull request, their commit messages are very, very sparse, like there's not much information in them. And that's very common sort of in a lot of places, but it's just to sort of make people aware that, your commit messages are there to sort of capture the intent of what you're doing, because we can see what you're doing from the commit itself, but understanding why you've chosen to do a particular thing can be very interesting and very, very useful in the commit. And what we usually do is when we're sort of reviewing a PR, especially one that's quite large, it can be very useful to break that up into multiple commits where each commit is kind of like a logical part of the change, and you can kind of describe what you're doing in those. So if just to sort of be aware that when you are adding a commit message, people do read them and people use them to understand why you're doing something. And it can make a good commit message and a good sort of breakdown of commits in your PR can make it much easier for people to review, and it's much more likely that your PR will get reviewed and accepted and merged very quickly. So that was really it. Sort of, I'm sure most people sort of are fully aware of this, but it's for anybody who's not sort of thought of that, it's useful to do going forward.
Let me show you an example of somebody who wasn't very good at this. Right. We'll start with a good example.
We should probably blur the name.
This is from Burton. This is one that's actually pretty good. It says redirect direct file to OpenFaaS FaaS file, and when I click this button, I can see that it's been signed off, which is mandatory. And then what Burton's done is he's actually wrapped the text round so that it doesn't just go on and on. And one of the reasons why that's important is when you're looking at the Git log, it needs to format in a way that's going to work with the tooling. The short names are needed for when we do Git log one line. So again, this one's probably a bit too long, and there's some guidance, and that one is crazy long. Like, I don't know that was who did that one. So these should all be within 72 characters. When they're not, do you want to see one? Do you want to see a bad one? So I don't know who did this commit, but they didn't read the contribution guide, and you can see by going over 72 characters, GitHub doesn't even know what to make of it, right? So it cuts it off mid flow, and it ends up wrapping around. This is actually one that I did in March. And somebody called me up on it, and they were like, well, you should be writing your commit messages in this way. And to begin with, I wasn't certain, but actually when you look in retrospect, it helps people work with the tooling, right? And then you also get some of the intent of why they did it. So this is, if I was to redo this one, I could probably just cut off at this point for the subject, and then I would write this in the body of the commit, right? And then GitHub is going to play nice with it. And when people are using the Git tooling to work with the repo, they're going to see how that works too. If it seems like a lot to remember, it's written down in the contribution guide, and I didn't come up with these rules. They're actually from a guy called Chris Beams, who's quite well thought of in the community. And so really it just says first letter should be capital, and a verb, a new line, and then your message. So the way that I do that is I just type in git commit, you add something, right, and then it will pop up, but we need to do it with an S, right? And then you can type the subject, add the secrets, needed to add secrets, whatever it happens to be, right? And I don't want to actually save that. Any questions about that?
Just one real quick comment that really helped me out was the commit message should be a why and not a what. The what is covered in the code that you're doing. The why should be covered in the commit message. So the subject should say what you're doing, and then the rest of the commit message should be why you're doing that thing. And then the details can go into the in the code actually.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go on to some just general like office hours now. We've got a whole bunch of people on. Got I think like 16 people. If you want to, if you don't want to give an update, you don't want to talk, just feel free to pass on by. Let's just go through everyone. We start with John McCabe. Just talk about what you what you're working on, what you're doing, if you need any help with it.
Yeah, so I'm planning on spending a bit of time sort of benchmarking or running some sort of benchmarking type tests with OpenFaaS on different Kubernetes cloud providers, just to try and sort of get a better feel for sort of behavior at load. So I'm going to spend a bit of time at the weekend sort of looking at some stuff with Alex and planning on kind of digging down into that a little bit further sort of over the next few evenings.
Thanks.
Just still trying to get the I haven't finished tidying up the cloud events repo. I'll just push it up as is and deal with the blog post later on. But yeah,
that would be great, because I've linked a few people to your repo, and it's obviously not there just yet.
Yeah, I'll do so.
Okay, great. So next on the list, Alex, gonna try to pronounce your name. Kroyable.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Well, so I've been working on. So who made the original SF asset demo? Is it? Yeah.
I put it together with. It was basically I can't claim the idea. The idea was from a student at Hobbiton School called Robert. But yeah, I put it together based upon what he'd done in a Flask app.
Okay, so yeah, I've been trying to improve upon that, and also, so you mentioned yesterday working on the demo for next week for the secrets.
Yeah.
So now, yeah, I'm definitely down to help for that, but just point me in the right direction. You said front end secrets.
Absolutely. So what would really help is testing out the CLI change.
Okay.
So let's work with Bart on Slack and see if the pull request for OpenFaaS Cloud is ready to be merged. So the backend is ready, and then we could test end to end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Alex. Bart?
So I was working on this SealedSecrets, and I want to finish it today. And I think that it looks fine. If, we will make sure that end-to-end it's working. And after that, if there won't be anything more important or something, I could help with the operator and the Kubernetes stuff there. But
Okay.
I'm open to any
Great.
ideas in that field.
Thank you for your help on that. Appreciate it. So, Bernd Young, that's joined us from VMware, from Team Dispatch.
Hey there.
Hey. Have you got anything you wanna talk about OpenFaaS? You used the Helm chart recently. We published that. I don't know if people know about it.
Yeah, no, I've got nothing new. I was just listening in today.
Yeah, cool. All right, thank you. So Ben had mentioned to me about Helm chart for OpenFaaS actually having a repo. So it's not in the upstream repo at the moment, because I had some advice from one of the maintainers that once it's in there, it can be very slow to get changes through.
That's true.
But we have our own one on GitHub Pages. So the URL is basically just the Fastnetis repo. If you've got Helm and you've been cloning the code and what have you, every time you make a change, we've been publishing a TGZ, like a tarball, and then people can just pull that in. It's in the make file. If you want to get it, it's make charts, right? And it just adds it to the GitHub Pages. So if you want to try that out, we've got a link for it. Great. Cassiano.
Hello.
Hello.
Actually, I have like one thing to share and actually a question. Like I have more than one, but probably it's better to do these questions on Slack to leave it there documented. I've been working in a proof of concept of having something that I would call it like an SMTP gateway for OpenFaaS to let us call functions for emails. And like I would like to ask what would be the best way of plugging this on OpenFaaS itself, because I see that I have two ways of doing. One, that this can generate an HTTP request to the gateway itself and just be like a input filter, like I receive an email, convert this to a HTTP request and do a webhook to the gateway, or to submit this to the nets and to be like generating queue to be worked based on this.
Yeah.
Which way do you think it would be the best way for this to fit in the ecosystem, in the OpenFaaS itself?
So you have an SMTP gateway. You're pulling emails in inbound emails, and you want to call a function with them.
Yes.
Well, that sounds very useful. I'd really like to see.
I've been working in the like it's a in the. I just started with a proof of concept in Go. Like I'm grabbing all the libraries and trying to do as little code as possible. And I managed already to get an email to come in and generate a JSON output that this will be just submitted to a function.
That
so like
so
I'm
cool.
just looking where is the right place to put this, like in the net queue or through the gateway itself, because I would like to leverage all the metrics from Prometheus and everything. That's why I was thinking about submitting this through the gateway.
So you can actually do both if you want. I don't know if anyone else has any ideas on this, but basically if you use the asynchronous route on the gateway, it puts it in nats and you get the metrics as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
I would suggest trying that if you don't need a synchronous result for your function.
Yeah, emails, they will be 100% of the time asynchronous. Like we don't need to answer back, because most of like, no matter if it's postfix or any server like that we use, they don't expect to receive a synchronous response back from us.
Okay, so in which case, if you do it in this way, async function and then the name, rather than just function, this will immediately be accepted into nats and then it will be processed in the background for you. So I would suggest trying that as your approach.
Perfect.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, yes. I want to leverage as much as possible everything that is in place. That's what I was asking. Like this was one of the questions. Actually, I have two more if we have time.
What I would suggest is we go through everyone else, and if we have a few minutes at the end, we can go back to it.
No problem.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. Burton.
Hey there, you skipped me.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, so apologies for being a little quiet the last couple of weeks. It's been pretty crazy at work, but it's finally starting to slow down, so getting back into it. I'm working on setting up the testing in with Azure's Kubernetes service to test there. I know most of the testing has been done on Google GKE, so looking forward to seeing the difference in the Azure, and hopefully be able to pick up some more code changes in the coming weeks.
Great, appreciate your help with that. Charlie?
I've been pretty quiet the past month or so, and this next month is probably not going to be a whole lot better. We're looking at moving, so packing and everything is going to take priority, unfortunately. The one thing I do need to get done is I did finish building my transcode pipeline with OpenFaaS and Minio, and that's actually been testing out really well over the past couple weeks. So I need to get a blog post put together and get the code up on GitHub. And then anybody that wants to can review it and make any suggestions for how to improve it. It's definitely got a few rough spots that could be improved, but overall it transcodes 30 gigabyte plus files pretty well. So pretty happy with the work on that so far.
File. That's a huge file, 30 gigabytes. I think that could be, there's some people that were speaking on one of the GitHub threads about working with large files. So if you have a way of getting that blog post out, I think it could help a lot of people.
Yeah, that's definitely what I need to do. Like I've got it as a priority to do this week. I finally carved out enough time to be able to actually work on it. So I'm going to get that done, because what I'm actually doing right now is those files being that large are actually Blu-ray disc files. So, you know, they range anywhere from about 20 to 33 gigabytes on a Blu-ray disc. So the files themselves get transcoded through asynchronously and then get delivered to Minio does all of the housing of the data moving back and forth. But it works pretty smooth with about 5 functions. So I will get that blog post done by the end of the week and post a link so everybody can go and review it. And I'll get the code up hopefully by the end of the day today.
Okay, that'd be great. Dimitri?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey.
Currently, I'm working on demo with style transfer. I think it will be ready tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds great. So, can you just say what style transfer is in like one sentence for people?
It will be some open source library on PyTorch. Yeah.
So
right.
in effect, it's something like this, right? You have some source picture and you applying a different visual effect to it.
Yeah, we'll have some presets to style, and I think it will be working on CPU.
Okay, that's great. I think that would be a really good demo. It'd be good, something to put in the function store. Do you think it would work in the function store?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Keep us updated on it. Let us know if you need anything. Ivana?
I was muted. Hi.
Hello.
I'm working, you already mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I'm working on adding support for building native C++ methods. Currently, I'm modifying the feature to be supported from this TechYAML. It's still in discussion how to. Today I tried with the bcrypt package, and I needed to modify the module. So maybe we need to discuss whether they should be configurable, because if someone else tries some other package, and we also need to modify the template. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's something that needs little discussion.
So the idea of this one is that rather than having one Docker file, one base for Go or Python that is lean, and then another one that has everything you need to build native dependencies, we would define in the template hidden from the user like a category or a collection of packages like dev, and then that would install these for you. So right now, if you use the normal template and you're using pandas, Python module, it will basically not know what to do, and then you have to edit the template to add a build pack. That's the work that's being done. We do need some input on the user experience though, so I'm going to put that in the channel, and it would be good to get some feedback from people. If you are building native modules or you need them, let us know what you think.
It will be very useful if someone can try it with another function, maybe something you use to see another use case.
Yep. Okay. Did you update the issue with what you needed to add for bcrypt, the PR?
I updated the pull request in templates in the templates repo, and I updated this pull request that I tested with bcrypt.
Okay. Did you say what modules were missing?
I don't remember. Let me check.
Okay.
I think
have a
I
look
did.
after the call. Maybe you could add
Okay.
a comment.
Okay.
Jock?
Hey, how's it going? Mostly I was just listening in today. I do have some projects I'm doing for work with OpenFaaS. I've come back to running OpenFaaS on some of our Cisco routers that have compute built into them. So I'm actually reviving that project right at the moment. I'm also looking to run OpenFaaS on Balena, which is something that Resin does. And there's some interest in that because on some of our IoT gateways, Cisco might actually be adopting Balena to run on it. So I'm also scoping that out for our engineering teams to see what that'll look like. So I kind of wanted to do both, run it on our current platform, but also run it on what it would look like with Balena. Which if you don't, if you don't know what Balena is, basically they took the Moby project and forked it to make it more to work so where you can push containers with smaller deltas and more constrained environments like you would experience in IoT compute environments.
That sounds great. I'd like to know how you get on with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Jonas?
Hi, everyone. First time caller here, so very happy to be here. I will be helping out with the workshop over at OSCON in about a month, a little more than a month. So my goal here is to go through the workshop and make sure that it looks good, and if there are any errors that might come up, that I document those as well, and making sure that it's easy for everyone to kind of go through it. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Great. Appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And you're going to be doing that workshop at OSCON with Eric, right?
Yeah, exactly. So he will be presenting the workshop, and I will be just helping out, essentially.
Okay. Sounds good. Let us know if you find any problems. Ivana is a good contact for that as well.
Excellent.
Kendrick?
Hey, folks. So I'm not doing anything with OpenFaaS right now, just trying to keep a cadence on all the open source projects that are happening with inside the walls of VMware right now. So just trying to, keep alive, keep on top of it, and one day I'm going to get around to it.
Cool. Are you at DockerCon?
Yes, I'll be there next week.
Yeah. Well, feel free to come to the sessions or the meetup.
I've got up some of my schedule already.
Cool. Nice. Richard Gee.
We're getting close now to having a working proof of concept parking booking application based on OpenFaaS. A long time coming. We've learned quite a few things around Artifactory and cores in the process. But yeah, we nearly have a working proof of concept. I'm hoping that once we've got it up and running, we'll get a blog out there showing how it works. And within the project, been providing some input into Ivana's work on the CLI.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Pasted the link with the work you two have been doing into the Slack repo, Slack channel. So let's see if we can get some more validation on it before we add it in. We can change it. It would be good to try and get it right. Vivek, are you still with us, Vivek?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Hello, everybody. So I was working on OpenFaaS Cloud, and since last week I haven't picked up anything new because of some official schedule. So most probably I'll pick up something new this week. And we are also working on creating a meetup group here in Bangalore. So me, Tarun, and I think Tarun is there in the call, and Vivek, Sridhar, we are creating a meetup group in Bangalore and working on giving our first meetup in the coming month. So,
thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys setting that up. Some of my colleagues at VMware from Bangalore suggested they may be able to host your first few meetups or maybe combine forces. Some of my colleagues are running a Kubernetes meetup there, so they already know some of the people.
yes, sure. So I have also talked in my current company, so we'll also host some meetup over our company, and then Vivek has also told that he'll help with organizing the meetup. So
Great. I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes. I've shared it through OpenFaaS Twitter, and I can share it some more when you're getting closer to the time.
yeah, sure. Thank you.
And so it's great to have Tarun with us from Icon Scout. Tarun, I was speaking about your case study, your use case recently.
So we are basically Icon and stock photos marketplace. So we are basically working on Icon Scout 2.0 with a lot of new feature and one more SaaS product. And we since last 1 month we are utilizing OpenFaaS especially for image processing works, processing images on the go and resizing them in bulk and generating previews and many more things and storing them into S3 and all these things. So that's the main thing. And apart from that, we, as Vivek said, we are also planning for meetup maybe next weekend in Bangalore itself. So we'll be looking forward from you guys to have some ideas in terms of demo or something for our first meetup.
Yeah. ask on Slack about some ideas. I can definitely share with you the deck that I have
Yeah, so the kind of we are looking for some kind of ideas which can excite users to try it out OpenFaaS, and then we can go into detailed workshop maybe next month or somewhere.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
excellent. Thank you. Now we've got Martin Dikoff to speak, and is there anybody else who's been missed? I think we got everyone here. Okay, so Martin, do you want to tell us a bit about your first couple of days working with Ivana?
Well, I'm halfway through the workshop, and she's helping me out a lot on problems that I have. And well, yeah, that's basically what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to finish the workshop and then enter into the project, maybe help you out guys with something.
Great, well, that's good to hear. So has everyone had a chance to speak? Anybody else want to say anything? Okay, well, this document, I've shared it in Slack, so it's got all of the notes. There's some links in here as well, like the contribution guide. Thanks, John, for telling us about that. Keep your eyes peeled for more on the SealedSecrets with OpenFaaS Cloud. The CLI is going to have the new command, and you'll be able to deploy your functions and make use of secrets securely as well. So thanks everybody for joining, and I'll put this recording up just after the meeting. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.
Everyone, bye.
Bye.